Here we are again, back in Photoshop CS3 there, and following on from the previous movie, looking at the use of the curves palette. I'm going to click cancel here, and let's just get our eyedropper tool, and again I'm going to click the clear button to clear out those markers. So we're really back to where we started as the image first opened. And let's just have a look again at some more detail with the curves palette. So let's go in here and choose curves, and there we are, back to where we were earlier. So we can protect our highlights, the important highlights to us. I'm going to hold down the Alt key while I drag this slider here, and I'm not bothered about the text at the bottom of the image, but this highlight detail that's showing up on the well, I don't know what you'd call this, some sort of TP wigwam homemade shelter here. I'll do what I did in the earlier movie, hold down the shift key, and let's say we want to protect that detail there, which at the moment is 248, and that's fine. So we don't want to go any further there. And again we can look at the black points. Now in this image, obviously this black bar at the bottom, as we know, because of the graphic design that's being used here, would be black, but let's not concern ourselves with this area. Let's concern ourselves with some of the blacks in this image. I'm not bothered about the shadow area here, but obviously this person being black skinned, I would be concerned about the black areas of the skin and wanting to protect some detail. I'm just going to have a look at that detail while I hold down the Alt key and move this black point slider in. Oops, my mistake. And we can see the black starting to show in there, and there definitely is some blacks showing up there as being these areas of black on the skin, which I probably would want to protect. They would be important to me more than these dark black shadow areas. So let's just click and drag and zoom in there, and let's just place a marker down on some of these points here. So this is definitely some skin. We're in shadow here, so I've got to keep an eye on these areas. I'll hold the shift key down and click, and we can see that that is above really 10-15, so we will get detail there. And let's shift click a marker point there which is at 0. We can see that's in heavy shadow. I see no detail, I see no point in trying to preserve some detail in natural shadow areas there. So we can say that we've set this highlight and white point in the correct place. Let's just have a check on that. Maybe we should keep an eye on the side of the face here, and let's just roll the mouse around and keep an eye on the points. I'm looking at the info here now in the RGB areas, and we can see maybe that's just a little bit too low. They have gone too far there, and that's looking a bit more healthy, was preserving some of the detail on the skin there. So I'm happy with my highlight and shadow detail, and beyond that I can then apply a slight S-curve just to give us a little bit of gentle contrast there, which improves the colour. And that was that. That was very simple, straightforward. It was done in the correct way. Now people will often say that we can use the curves palette to target and manipulate specific individual tones of an image. Well, I think that's a bit of a fallacy. It's not quite true. We can certainly zone in on tonal areas of the image, but not, I would say, individual tones. And you can do that by having a look at a tonal area, and if I click and drag the mouse, hold the mouse button down, let's say over this area here, you can see that bouncing ball that appears on the curves palette. Just watch here. So we're saying that within this area that's where I'm clicking and holding the mouse button down. That's giving me an idea on the tonal curve where this tone lies. Now of course that might not be individual to this area, because as far as I can see there'll be plenty of other areas in this image that has that specific tonal area. Anyway, I'll click and drag. So we could say, because these points are locking this part of the curve down, if I want some more contrast in for this particular tonal range, I could add a point here and maybe add a point here and steepen the curve there, steepen the curve, which will give me some more contrast in this area. Now as I say, in this particular image there are lots of tones very similar or the same as to this area here, so you can see it's difficult to target a particular tonal area. Now of course we could do that with masking, but masking is the subject for later movies. And this tone's already beginning to look a bit disjointed. By that I mean, when you're using the curves, it's best to use the minimum amount of points on this tonal curve as possible. We can start adding points here, there and everywhere, but then the curve becomes disjointed and the image will start suffering because of that. And I would say that this is probably the maximum we've got here now. I certainly wouldn't want to add any more. So if you can bear that in mind, if you can use the minimum amount of points on the curve as possible, then that will give you a better and smoother transition for the tonal range of the image. So again, we'll leave this movie here and we'll discuss this idea a little bit further in the next movie.